So today I wanted to share with you a interesting society that exists on this planet, and some may say it is the land of open relationships and non-monogamy, but it's very much more than that. Hey guys, welcome back to Live, Love, Life, and Travel. This is your girl Shamika, and if you're new here, welcome. Just to let you know, I usually upload my travel related videos Monday through Thursday and my free talk videos on the weekend, so if you're interested, please hit that subscribe button. Today I wanted to do a fun little interesting video and just tell you guys about this culture that exists in this world, and some may say it's the land of open relationships and non-monogamy. And the culture that I'm talking about is the Mosuo tribe, and it's a village that's 4,000 strong in the Tibetan mountains that's on the border of Burma and China, and it's one of the last matriarchies that exist till today, and it's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And what is a matriarchy? A matriarchy is basically when the women are in charge. The women are the head of the household. The women have all the say-so and all the control in this world. They are the kings and the queens of this culture, and which is really vastly different between most Asian traditional families. The men are usually in control of the household. They're usually the heads, and the women are usually the more submissive, docile ones, and this is quite reversed. You may think just because the women are in charge, they're somehow whipping the men into shape and all the men are doing all the grunt work, but it's quite the opposite. Because the women are in charge of everything, they then do everything. They're in charge of taking care of the house, taking care of the land, taking care of the children, raising the children, and bringing in the money. So maybe it's not as fun as it thinks, but the women seem pretty content and happy with their situation. But let's stop for a second and talk about what people are usually the most intrigued about, which is their non-monogamous way of living. They have something called the walking street marriage, which I guess is coined because the men usually only come around at night when it's time for some hanky-panky and some romantic time. They usually go through like the back door or the window or something. In the morning times they walk home to the families, which thus the walking marriage. I saw the documentary. The first time I heard about it was a couple of years ago, and I saw in a documentary where the men said, like, yeah, you see early in the morning where you just see a bunch of men sort of walking back to their respectful places. In this Mosuo tradition, women can have many lovers, many husbands, and many fathers for their children. But it doesn't mean they don't ever have love, and doesn't mean they don't ever have monogamy. A lot of women, the older they get, they will start to settle down with one guy, and they may have that one guy, but they're still very much allowed to do some side walking if they wish or they please, and there's no jealousy or blame involved because that's just their tradition. But doesn't mean that they don't ever have that one or maybe two guys that they're actually really in love with, and they may choose to continue to have children with. So they do find love. And a lot of times when they do settle down for one or two, and maybe even if they have a couple of walking flings on the side, they usually stay with that one person to the day they die. Mosuo don't ever really have divorce because they don't ever have a chance to really get sick of each other or on each other's nerves. There is a such thing as broken heart and sadness when two people who loved each other break up, but they're not disillusioned by the fact that love can sometimes be fleeting. It's not like a huge deal to just say, okay, I no longer enjoy your company, you no longer enjoy mine, let's no longer see each other, and I'll just find another partner. But when they do settle down on someone and they start to grow old together, they do stay together to the day they die. So how does this go with raising children? The father of the children can be a part of their kids' lives in some way if they choose, and the mother of the children agree to it, but it's not necessary. The uncles and the brothers that stay in the family homes are usually in charge of taking on the father role of the children. The young kids itself are usually mostly raised by the grandma. The grandma is the head matriarch of the household. They're in charge of doing a lot of the rearing or the raising up the kids or watching over the kids, while the younger women go out and do the work and make the money. The grandma, the head matriarch, usually stays in a room called the flower room and with all the younger kids. And then when the girl reaches her age of 13, she gets her own room, and that's also a mark of adulthood. So this is an issue some people might find a little bit uncomfortable, because at that age she can start taking in husbands or lovers if she wish. It's her choice if she wants to, but that's the age where that's sort of the mark of womanhood and the mark of adulthood. And tradition back in the day is changing now because of tourism, but back in the day, they used to have these sort of ceremonial, celebrational dances where they would sort of hold hands in circles. And if a girl was interested in a guy, she would give him a tickle like 3 times at the palm of his hand, and he would know that she was interested and that he was welcome into her bed that night. And this was, again, start at the age of 13 and up. You may be wondering how the men feel about this situation. The men are pretty freaking happy about it. They have less worry. They have less worry about their lives because they don't have that much to be concerned with. They don't have to bring in the money. They don't have to take care of the household. They don't have to till the land. They don't have to raise the kids. They kind of just like, I'm sure they have some responsibility, but not nearly as much as the women do. They get to have, many girlfriends and many wives, but they have no control. When I first heard about this, again, I saw it in the documentary, but just to refresh my memory, I also watched the program on Broadly on YouTube. And when I went down in the comment section, a lot of the girls were sort of saying, like, how is this any better? These women still have to do all the work, and while the men get to sleep around. Mind you, the women are in charge of who they get to sleep with. So the women get to sleep around too. It's not just the men's idea. I don't know why women cannot wrap their heads around that women are into open and non-monogamous relationships as well. But I did watch this and go like, wow, they do have a lot of work. Are they happy? The women do seem content. They do admit that this is a lot of hard work. But the thing to admire about this tradition is that they have very, very strong family ties. Most families stay together till they die. It's sort of changing now that kids are, wanting to branch out, go into the more modern China. There's tourism now, and there's internet and smartphones. But most of the times, they all stay together. The homes are passed down from generation to generation to generation. So even though the women have a lot of work that they have to do, they have a lot of help. They have each other's back. They're there to pick up the other pieces. They're there to help each other. So even though they have a lot of work, they have a lot of help. They have a lot of family. They have a lot of sisters, aunts, grandmas. And then they do still have the uncles and the dads and the brothers and the kids to help out too. The women seem content with what they had. Even though they had a lot of work, comes with a lot of power. The women get the inheritance. They get the land and they get the homes. The men have no control. They have no property. They own nothing except the bits and bobs that they buy themselves. But the women get the big real estate. That's why you never see a woman sort of begging on the streets or sick or homeless or have no one to take care of it, because they all stick together. And the Mosuo people as a whole usually make no more than $200 a year, which sounds like someone will be living in a hole if they made that much money. But because they're pretty self-sufficient, there is no super Kmart's on the corner. The idea of big markets and chain stores do not exist to them. They're still very much in their time. They have modern things, like they have electricity and plumbing and, like I said, smartphones and internet, but they're still very much set in their ways. So they're very, very self-sufficient. They grow all their food. They make all their clothes. They make all their utensils and the things they need. So $200 is pretty much good for them. And again, their property and their homes are passed down from generation to generation to generation, so they're never much in need. The modern day stresses that a lot of us have, like, trying to find a place to live, paying for rent, paying for a mortgage, trying to get a car, trying to climb the social or the corporate ladder, those things don't exist to them. Those stresses do not exist. So yes, they have a lot of hard manual labor, but of the other stresses that a lot of us deal with, they don't exist to them. So they work very hard, but they still seem really happy. And again, going back to the relationships, there's less pressure in their relationships or in their marriages. They are still called walking street marriages. They're still loving and wanting to be with each other, but it's that less of that commitment, less of that hardcore, if you get divorced or if you break up, then you're a failure in some way. So it's less pressure in the relationships. It's more freeing. It's more free-spirited. And also I like the idea that there's no slut shaming in this culture. Women are free to sleep around, and so are men, and there's nothing wrong with that in their eyes. They see, like, what's the problem? Even if, like I said, a woman decides she wants to be with this guy and she only wants to have one father for her children, she is still free to do walking marriages on the side, and so is he. So less pressure for less pressure for everybody. So the sad part is that because this is the last matriarchy and they're getting more popular, the word is getting out about these people, that people want to see how they live. So tourism is becoming a boom, which is a good thing because people get to be exposed to something as unusual or something that they're not used to, but it's a bad thing because it's slowly devouring their tradition. The more tourism come in, the more the young people want out. So a lot of the young people do desire to leave their town because this is all they've known. They've talked to some of the young girls, and the girls say, how can we find any of these guys attractive? We grew up with them. They're like brothers. It's such a small populace that we want to see what else is out there. They're curious. They're teenagers. They're young people. So a lot of them want to go out into the modern day era. They want to go to the big cities and fancy cars. They've seen the Kim Kardashian show and bullshit like that. So they want a little bit of piece of that lifestyle. So sadly, a lot of the young kids are leaving. But never fear, because of the strong family ties that you do have, some of them, if not a lot of them, do eventually return. A lot of girls do want to go find guys outside of their town because they are kind of just bored of the pickings that they have around them. So they'll bring guys back to their town, and they either have a regular modern relationship within their homes, or they'll continue the walking street marriage. But every year more and more kids leave, and every year less and less kids are coming back. So the idea that this culture is maybe one day non-existent is kind of sad. The traditional dance they used to do just for themselves to celebrate their own lives is now sort of just to perform for tourists. You know, their fields are being knocked down and bulldozed over for hotels. Their dirt roads are being splattered with pavement, which, you know, in some ways is good because, again, a lot of young people do start to leave just to look for jobs. So maybe the tourism will bring jobs in, but it's also slowly taking away their culture a little bit. I mean, a lot of the people there are very confident that their culture will stay strong and it will continue, but some people are not so confident. So that's really, really sad for me. I'm talking about this because, and I'll continue talking about different things like this, because as a tourist, as a traveler, you have a choice to go see this for yourself, to visit this town and to see how they live. I heard it's like going back in time, like a time machine. It's like a good thing that, you know, you get to experience this, but it's like a bad thing because the idea that the fact that you can go experience this is destroying someone else's culture. Yeah, it's almost like the long neck video that I made. It's not the same at all, but it's, instead of, like, I would love if I can go there and just be brought into their homes and be invited to their dinners and break bread with them and just see how they live. It's sort of an insider look instead of them just sort of performing for me instead. It seems a little bit disingenuous where they're, this is our traditional dance, but this is not usually why we do it. We're just doing it just to perform for you guys. It's like, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword, I guess. But anyway, I just thought it was an interesting, I thought it would just be an interesting video. Like, I've already made a video about polyamory. I'm going to make one more video about open relationships in general. But the idea that in 2016, a lot of people still feel like it's so crazy and modern. The idea of having an open relationship or a non-traditional marriage is crazy. Or people think that you're just bringing back the 60s or something, where non-monogamous relationships has been around for years and years and years and years. Or multi-wife or multi-spouse relationships has been around for hundreds of years. Even in biblical times, they had concubines. The idea of monogamous relationship, just man and woman, didn't really come into place until religion took over, till the church said that this is the right way. The church said fornication and adultery is wrong. That's when it started to creep in. Before that, like, people did have non-traditional relationships. This is not something new. And this Mosuo, And this Mosuo village proves that. This is one of the last standing villages like this, the last standing matriarchy that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I just thought it was interesting that they are so ancient but progressive at the same time. So that's just, I think that's just really cool. I also saw a program not too long ago about families who live separately, husbands and wives who loved each other very much but just felt like they got along if they lived in separate households. The kid would either stay with the moms or the kids would stay with the dads. And people would usually, for some reason, not even take on the dads but look at the mom and shame them and say how you're a horrible mother because you're not living with your kids. But it worked for them. They talked to the kids and the kids were like, yeah, it'd be great if we all lived together, but the fact is my mom and dad don't yell at each other anymore, they don't fight anymore, my mother is happy, she gets to pursue her own passions, and she still is our mother and she still sees us all the time and she loves us. This just works for our family. And the fact that this tribe here does the same thing where the mother and the fathers don't live together and one family is more in charge of raising the kids than the other. Not that the father is completely excluded from the kids' lives, but you know, if they wish or if they don't wish. I'm not saying that this is the right way. Like personally, I'm a little like, I'm kind of like a yin and yang. I love non-traditional relationships, but I love gender roles. Not for everybody, just for me. In my relationships, I want the man to take charge. I want him to be the head. I mean, of course, give me my way, spoil me, and let me do what I want sometimes. But I want them to take the lead. I like that. That's what feels good to me. So I'm not saying their way is the right way. I'm just saying like their way works for them. And you don't always have to have traditional type of family setup or family values to be a good family, you know. Even though they work really, really hard, and to a lot of outsiders we're kind of like, but you still are working so hard, they're happy because they're such a tight-knit family. They've held on to this tradition for so long that their family values are so woven and they're so strong with each other and they help each other. It's like women helping women, women empowering women uplifting women. I really like that. And so anyway, I think I'm gonna start babbling in a minute. That was just sort of my video. What do you guys think? Do you think this is an interesting village? Do you agree with them? Would you ever want to visit? If you would ever want to take on any of their values on yourself, let me know. Please comment in the comment section below. Like this video if you want to like it. Share this video if you like to share it. It really helps, guys. Check out any links below. And if you want to continue to follow me on this crazy game called life, please subscribe. And thank you from Live, Love, Life, and Travel.
When we settle down, we can settle at a table for two.